Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another deep dive on The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we are unlocking an elite, high-stakes masterclass. We are dissecting the Cambridge AS and A-Level Accounting 9706 syllabus, specifically targeting what is arguably the most notoriously tricky topic in the entire curriculum, the manufacturing account, focusing heavily on factory profit and unrealized profit elimination. Look, if you have ever stared at a past exam paper, specifically one of those daunting 15-mark evaluation questions, and felt like the numbers were playing absolute tricks on you, you are exactly where you need to be. Today is all about the examiner's lens. We're going to break down the anatomy of command words, dissect complex questions, master your time allocation, and deploy critical thinking strategies that actually move the needle. Okay, let's dive right into this beast.
So, we have to start with the elephant in the room. Why do so many students completely crash and burn on the manufacturing account? Why does this specific topic consistently act as a massive roadblock to those top-tier A and A-star grades? Well, it is certainly not because the foundational math is impossible. It's because this topic demands a radical shift in how you process information. It requires a flawless blend of rigid structural precision and highly flexible, open-ended analytical thinking. You literally cannot just memorize your way out of this one. When an examiner uses a command word like analyze versus evaluate, or explain versus to what extent, they are setting entirely different cognitive traps. Analyze means you need to dig into the components and show how they relate, whereas evaluate demands a judgment, a verdict backed by evidence. If you treat those as the same thing, you cap your grade immediately.
And hey, you really don't just have to take my word for it. A real Cambridge Principal Examiner report explicitly called this, and I quote, one of the most misunderstood areas in accounting. Think about that. Out of the entire 9706 syllabus, this is where the examiners see the most confusion. If you've been struggling to grasp exactly how unrealized profit flows through your ledgers, or why we even bother charging a factory markup in the first place, take a deep breath. Your struggle is incredibly common, and it is completely validated by the people writing the test. But today, we are going to dismantle that confusion piece by piece by looking at exactly what they want to see on that page. Here is our strategic structural blueprint for this masterclass. First, core foundations, where we define the causal relationships. Second, the method mark strategy, where we build a procedural framework. Third, critical analysis, where we unlock those top-tier assessment objective bands. And finally, top examiner warnings, to help you sidestep the vault of traps that catch everyone else. Throughout this explainer, we're actually going to look at this through the lens of a peer conversation. I want you to imagine two archetypal scholars. Let's call them Alex and Sam, working in a digital study suite. Alex is highly technical, fantastic at formulas and facts, but struggles with open-ended evaluation. Sam is our creative thinker, brilliant at forming arguments, but falls apart on structural precision and timing. By analyzing how they would debate a high-tariff question, we're going to find the perfect middle ground for your exam strategy. Let's move into Section 1, Core Foundations, Defining the Beast. This is where we lay the theoretical architecture. Before we can even think about crunching the numbers, we have to define exactly what the examiners are hunting for. The assessment framework here demands competence across three distinct cognitive domains: AO1 for knowledge, AO2 for analysis, and AO3 for evaluation. Now let's picture our two scholars, Alex and Sam, looking at a 12-mark question on eliminating unrealized profit. Alex immediately jumps to the formula. Closing inventory of finished goods multiplied by the markup over 100 plus markup. Great, that's AO1 knowledge. But Sam rightly points out, wait, why are we doing this? And that's the AO2 analysis. We do this because the factory charges a markup to the trading account to measure factory efficiency against outside suppliers. But because the trading account hasn't sold all those goods yet, the closing inventory is sitting there artificially inflated by a profit we haven't actually made. If we don't eliminate that unrealized profit, our final statement of profit or loss is overstated, and our statement of financial position violates the prudence concept. The examiners explicitly highlight the candidates who reference these cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. It's all about precise causal relationships.
This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate difference between an average candidate and a top scholar. It's the battle of superficial breadth versus analytical depth. When Alex pushes for a purely factual approach, just listing out the provision for unrealized profit calculation, it results in superficial breadth. You get a few marks, but you hit a ceiling. When Sam argues for the broader conceptual perspective, explaining how an increase in factory markup might make the factory manager look great, but simultaneously increases the provision for unrealized profit and reduces the overall company's net profit, that is analytical depth. The Cambridge assessment framework heavily prioritizes deep, structured reasoning. They want to see you debate the problem, just like Alex and Sam, balancing the hard numbers with the overarching business reality.
Section 2, the Method Mark Strategy, Procedural Framework.
Now, right before we dive into the hardest part of the problem and show you how to get unstuck when you hit a major exam roadblock, I need to pause our session for a quick, crucial reminder. If you want to consistently crush your Cambridge exams and master these high-level strategies, you need to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE, O, and A levels, that's at @AceTheExam_IGCSE, and absolutely make sure you enable all notifications by clicking that bell icon. We drop weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategies just like this one, and you do not want to miss out on the exact frameworks that turn B grades into A stars. All right, let's get back to the methodology.
These high-tariff questions are deeply procedural. Let's watch Alex and Sam actively draft a model response on our smartboard. They're using our three-step cognitive scaffolding. Step 1. Deconstruct the question. They scan for the command word, isolate the content knowledge, and highlight the hidden constraints. Step 2. Solve systematically. They extract the data for prime cost and factory overheads. But wait, right here, they hit a major roadblock. They are struggling to link the factory profit transfer to the statement of profit or loss without messing up their timing. Here is the cognitive strategy to get unstuck. Stop trying to do it all in your head. Write down the double entry. Debit statement of profit or loss, credit provision for unrealized profit. By visualizing the T account, the flawed section of their answer transforms into a flawless, full-mark response. Step 3. Evaluate. You check for reasonableness. Does a massive 50% factory profit margin actually make sense in a highly competitive manufacturing context? Probably not. You must make justified, evidence-based recommendations.
And let's not forget the strict conventions of the manufacturing account. We are looking at a table right now that outlines proper headings, correct terminology, and clear annotations. In Accounting 9706, flawless presentation isn't just about making things look pretty. It is a rigid professional skill. You must clearly delineate direct materials, direct labor, and direct expenses to arrive at your prime cost. You must separately add factory overheads and then precisely adjust for opening and closing work in progress to find your cost of production. Only then do you add the factory profit. If you just call it inventory deduction instead of provision for unrealized profit, you are bleeding easy marks.
Section 3. Critical Analysis. Unlocking top-tier marking bands. This is where we enter our interactive pause and practice visual workshop. I want you fully engaged here.
For Scene 1 of our workshop, imagine a complex data source on the screen showing a company that just increased its factory markup from 20% to 25% while outside market prices actually dropped. If we put a 60-second visual countdown timer on the clock, what is your immediate evaluation? A flawed generic student answer, the vague superficial listing, would just say, the factory is making more profit, but the company has to remove it. For Scene 2, spot the flaw in that answer. First, it lacks technical terminology. Second, it misses the external market context. Third, it has no evaluative judgment. To unlock the highest marking bands, you need a context-specific answer using comparative connectives. You should be writing something like, although the factory manager's performance appears to improve due to the increased 25% markup, this is actually detrimental to the wider business. Outside market prices have fallen, meaning the factory is now highly inefficient compared to external suppliers. Furthermore, this artificially inflates the closing inventory, necessitating a larger provision for unrealized profit, which ultimately depresses the firm's consolidated net profit. Boom! That is how you use similarities, differences, and hard evidence to dominate the exam.
Let's keep this energy up as we move into Section 4. Top Examiner Warnings. The Vault. We have systematically scoured years of Cambridge Principal Examiner reports to unlock the vault on exactly where otherwise brilliant students completely fall apart on exam day.
Let's rapid-fire the top 3 mistakes, the exact trap set by examiners. Trap number 1. Answers are too vague. As we just saw in our workshop, if you aren't using precise terminology like cost of production or consolidated net profit, you are invisible to the examiner. Trap number 2. Forgetting format and presentation conventions. The examiner's eye is trained to look for a logical, step-by-step flow. If your manufacturing account looks like a jumbled math scratchpad without proper subheadings for prime cost and overheads, they will actively penalize you. And trap number 3, literally the deadliest trap of all, answers ignore the given context. If the stimulus material tells you the manufacturing plant is operating at 70% capacity due to a supply chain shortage, your evaluation of their factory profit margins must weave that specific reality into the argument. Generic, memorized answers hit a brutal mark ceiling every single time.
Before we wrap up, we need to synthesize this entire masterclass into 3 core, memorable pillars for your strategy recap. First, the 3-step question scan. Always isolate the command word, the required knowledge, and the context constraint before you write a single word. Second, the paragraph balance formula.
Ensure every evaluative paragraph has a factual core, an analytical bridge, and a judgmental conclusion. And third, the last 5 minutes review checklist. Verify your headings, double-check your arithmetic, and most importantly, obey this massive examiner alert on the screen. Show you're working. Method marks literally save grades. Let's say you're under intense time pressure. You panic, and your final calculation for the provision for unrealized profit is totally wrong. If you have clearly shown your procedural steps, if the examiner can see your logic, they will award you vital method marks. Making your thinking visible is the ultimate safety net.
So, let me leave you with a final provocative thought. Next time you sit down with a past paper, ask yourself, are you questioning your assumptions and justifying every decision with hard evidence? Are you thinking like Alex, getting bogged down in just the formulas? Or are you thinking like a true Cambridge scholar, combining technical precision with big-picture evaluation? Crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent, relentless strategy. You cannot do this alone, and you don't have to. Hit that subscribe button right now for Ace the Exam's IGCSE, O, and A levels. That's at acetheexam_IGCSE. Turn on the notification bell so you are the first to get our future exam hacks, and drop a comment below right now with your exact target grade so we can hold you accountable. Master these strategies, and the manufacturing account will become your greatest competitive advantage. Keep analyzing, keep pushing your limits, and I will see you in the next explainer.